This is Michaela McLean, and you're listening to Beauty by Design. Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for being here. You know what time it is. It's time to talk about our next gate. Before we get into it, again, new free chart system on my website with extended chart properties. Make sure you go get a new chart and one for everybody you know. I think it's so convenient that it lists out the gates that you do have active in your chart. So when you're listening along with the podcast, you can very easily know whether or not you have it. If you're not like me and know your chart like the back of your hand. So great way to do that at michaelamclean.com. Of course, you get the free guide to my human design basics that will lead you to the correct 1 hour, $11 human design aura type masterclass. You might think you know, but you probably don't know all of the things that are in just your basic class. And it's great to watch, revisit, re-listen to. I think you can listen to it like a podcast even as frequently as possible, honestly. So I highly suggest you do that. And then, of course, we have the Yoga Nidras, the energetic beauty sleep for every single type and authority combination. So it's a beautiful way to bypass the conscious mind, get into the cells, start living your design on a whole other level in a very, very simple, passive way. I'm always like, Yoga Nidra is the lazy girl's way to beauty, and then also living your human design through that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's just move along. I am, of course, I keep saying this, but working on new things that are coming, new classes and stuff heading into the new year. I'm getting really excited about that. So just some neat things to share that go beyond what we've been doing at this point. And you're going to need that chart to go there with me. So head on over. Of course, everything will be linked in the show notes and over on Instagram at Michaela McLean. Website is michaelamclean.com. So head to those places and find what you need. Okay, let's move on to the episode. Of course, your reminder, don't try to understand this at the mental level. Let the sound current, the energy, and frequency of beauty sink deep into your cells like good skincare, like Bob Ross was your esthetician. All right. Of course, today the sun moves through Sagittarius. We're still in Sagittarius season into human design gate 5, which is located in the sacral center and is part of the collective understanding or logic circuitry. This is the more yang, cool headed, planning, future focused side of the chart. It likes repeatable patterns that you can experiment with to prove. It is the logical left brain. I always say refinement and alignment live on this side of the collective circuitry versus the creative experiential flow of the collective abstract sensing side on the other side of the chart. Collective logic really is about a better, brighter future, but it's also impersonal collective logic. And the keynote here is sharing. So right here, just right off the bat, we're going to recall what we talked about just in the last gate episode, gate 9, where we're talking about that format energy flavoring the entire circuitry. So this is a continuation in that same circuitry. Okay, so the center itself, the sacral, is the major motor center of the body graph, and it's responsible for generating sustainable. I always say that's the key word when we're talking about the sacral. It's sustainable life force energy that powers up the whole world. And gate 5 is known as waiting. It's the gate of fixed patterns. And this is the energy to set and repeat patterns, habits, and rituals in order to ensure a consistent flow. It's also known as patience in the I Ching. Gate 5 is like attuning to your own internal biological clock, routines, habits, the comfort and security of knowing what comes day in and day out. We all know spring follows winter and the sun rises each morning and sets each evening. Waking up, a morning meditation, a walk, having coffee, eating at the same time. I'm describing my own routine there. Even my own habits. I'm like, I don't even eat till like way later in the day, drink coffee. But, there's my routine. So the low expression of gate 5 can be rigidity with routines, being so set in your ways that there is no room for flexibility. It can also express as feeling the need to impose your structure on others. Conversely, it could be disregarding your needs for routines to suit others. Just listening to general rhetoric of like, successful people must start the day at 5 a.m., or I should have a successful career, be married, own a house, and have kids by the time I'm 30, right? Basically, it's all that listening to the outside noise is leaving you lost and destabilized versus following the timing of your own internal clock. Totally out of your natural biological rhythm by doing that, throwing you off. It can also be impatient, not waiting for the correct timing and flow, and then acting out of fear, feeling behind schedule, not being there yet, wherever there is how I like to phrase that. That the high expression is about patience, trusting your innate sense of timing, which is connected to nature's cycles. After all, we are all part of nature and we need to flow with her. Honoring the need for your routines because they help anchor you and stabilize your vibration. Listening to your inner rhythm and dancing with it instead of denying it. And not allowing anyone else to override what you know is natural for you. Maybe you naturally prefer a slow morning or you're a night owl. Maybe you like to end your day with exercise versus feeling like, oh, I have to start it. So I have to start my day with exercise because that's what the experts say, right? Maybe you end every day with like a ritual bath and journaling, and that makes you feel super grounded and stable. It's not about listening to what other people or, like I said, the experts are saying, because only you can know what's right for you, those rhythms, patterns, rituals, what have you. It's going to be very specific to you and unique. And the big takeaway here is that you are exactly where you are meant to be at any given moment. We don't tell a flower to hurry up and bloom or an egg to hatch. It happens in its own divine timing that is intrinsically connected to the universal flow. So in the gene keys, the shadow of this one is impatience. The gift is patience, and the city is timelessness. Okay, so Richard Rudd says at its lower frequencies, it tends to display a deep distrust of life. This manifests in human beings through the fifth shadow of impatience. He goes on to say that this shadow of impatience is basically due to the fear that there is no underlying order to the universe. If the frequency of your genetics is tuned into this fear, no matter what you do to try to bring a sense of stability to your life, your body itself will never feel safe. This is, in fact, the normal state of consciousness of the mass of humanity. Within the fifth gene key lies the great secret of the timing of life. This gene key is about trusting or not trusting universal rhythm and natural timing. It sets the rhythms of the seasons, it fixes the timing of cell growth and decay in every living creature, and it governs all patterns of animals and human migration. As we have seen, all distrust concerning the timing of life manifests in human nature through the fifth shadow of impatience. This impatience is one of the greatest causes of disease on the planet, for it will undermine your health and well being and cut you off from the very heartbeat of life. In a certain light, impatience can be viewed by human beings as a positive trait, since it can goad you into action instead of remaining complacent. This is a mistaken impression, since impatience is rooted in agitation, and all action arising from agitation is out of harmony with the whole. There's a vast difference between acting out of impatience and acting out of resolve. Impatience is not a natural feature of human character. Rather, it is the result of a loss of your natural rhythm at a biological level. If you're feeling impatient, your breathing has become shallow and your nervous system is overactivated. Your core feeling is that all is not as it should be. Of course, this feeling is absolutely untrue. Everything is always exactly as it should be. What has happened is that you have fallen out of your natural state, the state of trust. Impatience is always rooted in the mind, and as such is unique to human beings because of the unusual nature of our neocortex, which processes information in such a way that we perceive everything as happening in time, with a past, a present, and a future. The only way to escape impatience is to escape the mind and its realm of time, which is precisely what happens at the higher frequencies of this gene key. Because the fifth gene key connects all life forms into a wider pattern, you have to learn to realize that nothing happens by chance. Everything is connected to everything else. So when you find yourself moving through a difficult period, it means that all life is moving through a difficult period. The themes that punctuate your daily life are universal themes that are lived out by all humans and all creatures simultaneously. This fifth shadow of impatience is nothing more than a low frequency human response to a particular set of environmental conditions. Like all shadows, it is simply a matter of perception and attitude. Time always moves according to your perception or mood. If your breathing is calm, rhythmic, and deep, then time appears to dissolve. At the highest frequencies of this fifth gene key, you do not even notice time. The more you become aware of your own impatience and restlessness, the deeper you begin to sink into your true center and the less you are concerned with time and timing. This is the birth of a higher frequency, and that frequency is what we call patience. This fifth gene key contains the most beautiful of equations. Acceptance equals patience, because the deeper you enter into your fears, the more patient you become. Patience is not the same thing as waiting. You can wait both patiently or impatiently. Patience is the natural ground of your being, whereas impatience arises out of fear and conditioning. Patience is about trust. Those two words have very similar meanings. If you trust in life, you will trust life in every moment, even the challenging moments. And in doing so, you will always remain in the flow. As you live your life, you may notice many rhythms all around you, and it is the underlying presence of these rhythms that make you feel stable. The most obvious annual rhythm can be seen in the shifting of the four seasons. If you are inwardly quiet, the passage of the seasons will make a very powerful impression within your psyche. It tells us some very deep truths, that spring always follows winter, for example. In your daily life, you will experience periods of winter where the resources may be scarce, where you may feel lost for a while, or when you simply feel melancholy for no apparent reason. Such stages are built into life, and if you are patient, they change of their own accord, and they always reveal some magic. The more you are able to settle into a deep trust and patience with the rhythm of your own life, the more your heart will open and the softer and more yielding you will become in your attitude to everything and everyone that comes your way. When you wait and allow life to reveal its natural rhythms, you also come to realize that life knows best. Okay, so my notes here. This is a part of a generated channel, which means it operates in response to the correct thing, to the correct work. Generators are designed to work, which is really just about funneling our sustainable energy into the things we love to do. Again, it makes sense being a generated gate. It's consistent energy to show up day in and day out for the same thing. The routine and repetition for that mastery of the pattern, that mastery of that logical circuitry. And like I said, this is literally waiting in patience, as that generated energy, it's patiently waiting to respond. The sacral gates always indicate what our energy is available for, what is willing to respond to. So someone with this gate is going to be genetically programmed to enjoy routines and look for those patterns, those routine patterns. This is also part of a tantric channel, which is the weaving together of the mundane. There's the gate 5, that very, earthbound element, with the mystical, the 15. And we will talk about that more when we get to the full channel, to the end of discussing that. But I want to go back and remind again that this is coming from that yang side of the chart that is focused on the future and taking action once it has thoroughly analyzed information and has turned it into repeatable patterns. So, again, think of the season. So that is a repeatable pattern. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Yeah. So, and speaking of that, we're approaching the holidays. We all know what that means for us, depending on the culture that we grew up in. We're essentially marking the passage of time with rituals, tracing things back to pagan traditions, which a lot of things basically are rooted in. Holidays serve various purposes. They were connected to the cycles of nature. seasonal festivities, they marked the key points in the agricultural calendar, acknowledging, paying homage to the changing phases of the natural world. If you look at the wheel of the year, they were connected to the solstices, the equinoxes, and then like the halfway points between those two, as well as other astrologically significant events. So just interesting again, to kind of like trace this back. You're like, wow, this, of course, this has roots, you know, the ancient Egyptians. Like, I mean, just this is just a very like deep cultural, right? Collective cultural gate. Okay, so the programming partner, meaning if the sun is in Sagittarius in gate 5, the earth is automatically opposite in Gemini gate 35. And 35 is known as progress. It's the gate of change. And the keynote with this one is that I experience or I feel or not progress through experience. So this is an energy that is always restless. It's looking for the next new experience. Often it can be one and done, So we're talking about gate 5, which is part of the collective logic. 35 is the opposite. It's collective abstract. So, it's more about the experience. It's the journey, not the destination over here. Um, you know, 5 is like, hey, we're going to repeat and master and understand these cycles of life. And 35 just wants to go, all right, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. What's next? What else can I try? So it's one that has a difficult time tolerating boredom, or anything repetitive. It's looking for stimulation, just so on and so forth. It's not necessarily wanting to sit patiently and wait, right? Patience. So it can show up as incorrectly entering into new experiences, not using your unique strategy and authority, lead to jumping into so many things without consideration for the ramifications of those actions. It can be impulsive, just wants to feel good, have fun, take others along for the ride. Very much instant gratification, doing things without clarity and then wondering why. They might keep repeating low vibe cycles. And it's also part of an emotional wave, that's a whole thing. But the high expression with this one is being intentional about making progress or achieving change through experience and then talking or sharing about it. Other people frequently just learn and benefit by hearing the stories from a gate 35. Like the 35 did it, so other people don't have to. And the key is just 35's energy being open to share, whatever life has to offer, whatever the adventure is, and just being up for it, being up for the experience, right? And then being able to collect the experience and then later reflect on it and share the wisdom gained. Again, kind of pointing out the difference between that collective, those two sides of the collective. The 5 part of the logic, it's looking ahead. How can we perfect the pattern going forward? And the abstract is like, hindsight's 2020. Let's look back. What did we learn from this? What did we gain? And they're both very important. Both of them have to do with sharing this information with the collective, with the culture, right? But they're doing it from 2 different ways, from the past and the future. Back to the future. Anyway, let's go on to the channel partner. So the gate that completes the channel is Gemini/Cancer. This is a bridge gate between the 2 signs, gate 15, forming the channel of rhythm. This is a solstice gate. Okay. So 15 is known as modesty. It's the gate of extremes. And the keynote with this one is love of humanity and embracing different rhythms and extremes of behavior. It's the extremist. So 15 is, I personally find it about being able to accept, maybe love potentially your own extremes and quirks first, so that you can love and accept others. You realize how different yet how connected we all are. And it's thought of as a mark of a humanitarian. Oftentimes 15 is spoken about in what I think of, right, as very basic terms, basically not having or liking a steady routine. Here we've got the channel partner gate 5, which is all about consistency, daily routines, rhythms, rituals. And I always throw this in because as somebody with this gate, and it's a my incarnation cross, it's an important one for me. I feel this does a disservice to those of us with 15 Because yes, you could be somebody who really dislikes routine, but I will say in my own experience, it's like I'm somebody with extreme routines, right? Um, Basically, I was like going off in a direction, but it's like having an eating disorder, and it's like, so for years, anorexia and like not eating, like that's my routine. Or I wake up at like 5 a.m. and I meditate every day and I have for years and I go on big walks and it's like, I'm out. Doesn't matter what time of year, doesn't matter. It could be 10 degrees below zero and it's like 6 a.m. and I'm out walking in knee deep snow. Don't care, you know, like that's the extremist in me that's like still having my routine. It cracks me up. There's friends of ours that they live near us and the dad had said to me one day, he's like, "You own winter." He's like, "You are out there twice a day, every day, like just up and down in these hills and the spikes on your boots. And in the summertime, it's do the opposite." And like that is an element of like the 15, right? Gate 15 understands the extreme diversity in this world and it has the ability to accept and hold space for it all. I also see this as having extreme life experiences, which helps you better relate to others. If you have it, you may have experienced more extremes in your life than most people, which are meant to be, again, shared with other people. In the Gene Keys, 15 has the gift of magnetism. I'm like, instead of BDE, it's BAE. It's like big aura energy. Having this gate specifically expands your aura and makes it triple XL, making you this incredible conduit for the power of love and acceptance. Basically, other beings, including animals, resonate with you. They're attracted to you because they can feel that vibe, that acceptance, like this transcendent love kind of generated in your energy field. This is a gate that's very in tune with nature and the cosmos. And again, this is a love gate. This is one of the transpersonal love gates. It's a love of humanity. It's collective energy. It's understanding that we all need to get along and love each other, but it is not personal. Ra Uru Hu, the founder of Human Design, said it's always that way with transpersonal gates. It's always that way with the anti-mundane. Their interest isn't you. So again, I think about this, and again, it's such an important gate in my own chart. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is my favorite Linus quote, for Peanuts, where he's like, "I love mankind. It's people I can't stand." It's like, oh, I have love for humanity. And then, it's not a personal energy per se. And in the Gene Keys, it's tied deeply to the Schumann resonance that hold us all together. It's the heartbeat of the earth. Richard Rudd calls the 15th key the polygamist, the person who has love for everything and everyone. And also the bodhisattva, the sage who decides to hold back his or her own enlightenment for the sake of others, the one who remains behind to teach others rather than pressing on towards the ultimate goal of becoming one with the divine. So 15 is like they're the full spectrum people. They just like, it's just very broad, again, transcendent, not personal love. So, okay, we've got 15 in the G center connecting to 5 in the sacral center, making up one of the 3 tantric channels, this one being focused on the future, right? This is collective logic looking ahead. Anything tantric by nature is the weaving together of the mundane, right? So we have gate 5's very 3D grounded, earthbound, I'm on this earth plane, their rituals, their routines with the mystical. There's our 15, the transcendent love of humanity and all its variety. So it's pure life force, that earthbound life force and fire powering up the mystical, the love, the identity, the direction of the higher self in the 15. When the two come together to form the channel of rhythm, it's about the flow of life. 5 is the steady drum beat versus 15, which is like jazz music. It just wants to be a free bird. For the 5, it's basically over there establishing the rhythm and the conditions for the 15. Routine is so good for the 5. And then for the 15, what's healthy for them is freedom and fluidity. This electromagnetic, meaning when 2 people come together and make it, I have 15. So people in my life that have the 5, it's like that has the potential for challenge and tension with any sort of relationship. personal, romantic, business, familiar, it doesn't matter. It's just two people coming together to create an electromagnetic. It can be difficult, but when it's within one person, it really gives them this ability to keep moving forward despite life circumstances. Think of a river that just keeps flowing along regardless of, oh, there's a waterfall. Ooh, there's rocks. It's like the water itself just keeps flowing with life, right? And 15 is those extremes just cropping up, like there's Niagara Falls, but the water keeps flowing. Um, I was thinking about like the Lion King with this, it's literally about the circle of life, the patterns that keep us all on some sort of universal schedule. And speaking of people with this full channel of rhythm, are very often deeply connected to nature, to animals, to Mother Earth, and they're considered very magnetic people. So like all things in our design, it's our personal responsibility at the end of the day to be the most high vibe in all of this that we can be, like always choosing the high expression of how we animate the gifts, the gates that we've been given, because it affects everybody else. Whether you are in or out of rhythm and flow, like if you are a channel of rhythm person, if you are pushing against what is natural, you're going to knock other people off versus if you are going with the flow, living life, in accordance to what is correct for you, you're also going to have a positive impact on everyone around you. And again, this is part of a generated channel, meaning if you have the full channel of rhythm, automatically you would either be a generator or a manifesting generator, depending on what else you have going on in your chart. So those are the only people that can have the full channel. So as always, it's about responding with that pure, sustainable power. And the G center, that there's our magnetic monopole, the home to that. It's always on the path, always in the flow, following this inevitable string, responding to what appears on the path. Their response to life is basically dancing to its rhythm. Okay, so astrologically, this is a Sagittarius Gemini opposition. If 15 moves into Cancer, then it's going to be a quincunx aspect. Okay. And then this is happening in the fourth quarter of the wheel, purpose fulfilled through transformation. And from what we've learned, I'd say the transformation is through the trust and the patience and the timing of life. So it's my purpose sphere, 15.1 in the Gene Keys, which is my design earth. So the one in red. That's part of my incarnation cross and human design. From me, or if you're somebody else who has 15, this is going to be you experiencing this full channel for the next few days. So you might really find yourself drawn into routine right now. Maybe something that's going to kind of help anchor you for the moment. I don't know. So just, I mean, and that's something to know as well. If you're like me and you have 15 by itself, you may not be somebody who's super prone to these routines, and allowing yourself that freedom. And if you're the 5 and 5 alone, that you are somebody who really needs it and craves it. And electromagnetics are so interesting to look at in people's charts. Again, depending on whatever kind of relationship you have with others. And this is one of those specific ones that's a little bit more like, ooh, okay, we want to know this about each other, because it's, nothing ever is a make or break in our charts. It's really about just the awareness of what do we have going on here. Okay. I already asked you, do you have it? Do you not have it? What's going on? What's the story there? Of course, I love to hear that. You can check out my latest post on Instagram. If you're not following me over there already, at Michaela McLean, I share other things about the energy each week, about how to actually work with the gate tangibly, whether that's oils, crystals, frequencies, certain practices, just things to contemplate in a very wellness and beauty related manner. I'll be back soon with more. If this episode was of value to you, of course, I would love it if you would leave it a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, because I always say this, my labor of love. There's my extreme routines, right? Home rule shows up every time it's a line one day, she's putting out a podcast, and I'm here for it. I mean, truly, this is an extreme routine, and that's just my thing. And so, I'm over here supporting with free knowledge, and I would love it if you supported me back. Super appreciate it. And if you want to learn more human design, of course, check out the charts, the free guide, the $11 master classes, and then, of course, the yoga nidras. And I will have more coming in the very near future. And of course, until next time, have a beautiful day.